Some of my cycling buddies swear by this type of wave-shaped saddle. They say it's super comfy, it looks the real deal, and they wouldn't ride with anything else. When I look at it, I just can't imagine how it could possibly be comfortable. The shape makes no sense to me at all, and I've explained why in a previous video here. In my opinion, the best shaped saddle is flat from front to back, flat from side to side, and with a gradual waterfall edge. We choose a flat seat at work, we have flat seats at home, so why would you choose a waved shaped seat on your bike? However, rather than just throwing mud from a distance, I took the opportunity to borrow one of these from a friend and try it for myself. I have two specialised road bikes that have the same sized frame. They came spec'd with the same short nose power saddle, and they're almost identical in geometry. Firstly, I have a specialised Tarmac SL7, size 61, and this is the bike I'll put the new saddle on. The second bike is a specialised Aethos, also size 61. It has a very slightly higher stack height, but otherwise the geometry is almost the same. The saddle I've borrowed to test is a Selle SMP geometric saddle. I measured the angles of this saddle a few weeks back. The rear is about 12 degrees up and the nose is about 35 degrees down. It's crazy stuff. The first thing I noticed when I installed the SMP saddle on my Tarmac is the stack height of the saddle is significantly higher than that of the power saddle. I went out for a short test ride and I had to point my toes all the way down just to get the pedals around bottom dead center. I certainly couldn't continue riding like this. When I measured the stack difference, the SMP saddle was almost 1 centimetre higher in stack than the power saddle. I then slid the seat post down to accommodate and I made sure that the 8 centimetre width point of the SMP saddle was in the same place as the 8 centimetre width point of the power saddle, as they are two different lengths. Now, as I pointed out in my previous video about this saddle, the angle that you should choose to position it in is not so straightforward. With a normal flat saddle, I would choose to have it either dead level or the nose down 1 or 2 degrees. What do you do with the SMP saddle? Initially, I tried with the center section of the SMP saddle horizontal, and therefore the rear was angled up steeply. Generally, I didn't enjoy this setup. As predicted, the steep rear element pushed me forwards on the saddle, so I was sitting on the narrower midsection. Here I really noticed the edges of the central cutout channel and I felt they were digging into me just a little too much. This was most noticeable on downhill riding, where I automatically found my weight shifting forwards with gravity anyway. On flat sections of road, I noticed this less, and on uphill sections of road, I hardly noticed it at all, as I guess my weight was rolling back on the saddle naturally. Next, I positioned the SMP saddle so that the nose and the rear element were at the same height, leaving a dip in the middle. I was expecting this to cause more frontal pressure because the nose is relatively angled upwards. However, to be fair, this really wasn't the case. I actually found this to be the more comfortable of the two positions, and I suspect this is because more of my body weight was positioned on a wider part of the saddle. Perhaps, again, on the downhill roads, I felt a little less comfortable because I was more pressed against the up-tilting nose section. But honestly, I didn't notice it that much. And for most of the riding that I did with the saddle in this position, particularly on flat roads and uphill sections, pretty much forgot I had a different saddle under me. With the saddle in this position, I certainly didn't notice the channel edges digging into me very much. So what is my overall summary of the Selle SMP geometric saddle? Does it live up to the hype? Is it the real deal? The OG Italian stallion saddle? Meh. With the SMP positioned so that the midsection was flat, I certainly preferred my previous power saddle or any other flat saddle I've tried in the past. With the nose and the rear section at the same height, creating a dip in the middle, I certainly felt comfortable enough. But I definitely would have no reason to go out and buy this saddle, and I would have no reason to replace the power saddle that came with the Tarmac. I should probably point out here that I normally cope fairly well with different saddles, and I would not regard myself as particularly sensitive to saddle variations. When I've hired bikes on previous overseas tours, I'm usually happy just to go with the saddle that comes with the bike rather than bringing my own with me. I think if you are someone who is sensitive to saddle variations, you would really want to test this saddle for a good period of time before you commit to it. I know that there is good research behind the Selle SMP saddle proving its benefits for genital blood flow for male and female cyclists and for reducing sexual distress scores for female cyclists. But I personally don't see what the fuss is about, and I'll stick to my specialised power saddle. I'm sure this will be a polarising opinion, and wave saddle aficionados and Italian traditionalists will be up in arms. But relax, it's just an opinion. Regardless, I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this saddle and whatever other saddle you might be riding at the moment. I've just come across a bare carbon saddle with no padding lent to me by a friend. I'm hoping to do a critique of this in a new video soon. Stay tuned.